This is my daughter, Meredith. She is my oldest daughter of three. And when she was 10 years old, we lived in Indiana. Um, she was diagnosed on an emergency room visit when we were sent by ambulance to Riley Children's Hospital, and she was diagnosed shortly after with leukemia. That was a new road for us. We had never at that time experienced anyone with cancer. And we went through 2 years of chemo and radiation. And thankfully, she came out well. And during that time, she was influenced by her doctor at Riley Hospital that she wanted to be a doctor. 10 years old, and she had made that life decision. And was not an easy road. She was we ended up moving again to Ohio, and she did very well in school. She graduated valedictorian and went to medical school shortly after. However, had a little bump in the road there. The first day of medical school, she spent in the hospital. She had an emergency appendectomy. So speed bump number one, yes. And so after that, she went to medical school, graduated. Everything was well underway. She was given a residency at Dayton Children's Hospital, and she served there for 4 years. Finished that and started working here in Troy, moved to Troy, and started working at Upper Valley Medical Center as the pediatric group. And 3 months into that job, about three, she called us on the phone. We were in Georgia at the time living, and she had a brain tumor the size of a plum, and it was on the front part of her brain. She was very calm about it, but we were not. So we got in the car immediately and drove to be with her here, and the next 2 or 3 months were extremely excruciating. She had surgery a month after the diagnosis, and it was removed. It was benign. Still, it was a very difficult recovery because she was much weaker than she thought she would be. She had to do a lot of healing and was very frightened that she had spent all this time, energy, and effort into becoming a doctor and thought she wasn't going to be able to practice. It was very scary at that time. Thankfully, God knew different, and He provided healing. He brought her through all of that, and He allowed her to take time off. Thankfully, her job here told her to take as much time as she needed to recover, and we were very thankful for that. And here she is. She's a pediatrician. She's fully practicing, and we could not be happier that God is true to His word. If I had one thing to say to the student body, I would hope that it would be a message of encouragement, that things, if you're called to something and you know that that's your calling, to stay true to that and not let things come in your way, or if they do, step over them or come through them. Meredith had some issues, and some major issues, and she has stayed true to what she knew she was called to do, and that was to be a pediatrician, a doctor.
So I would kind of expound on that if I were to, what my story to the student body would be. It's a message of faith and overcoming things that seem impossible. I have had a lot happen in my life. I was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 10, went through treatment, and through that found my calling to be a physician, specifically a pediatrician. A lot of people with leukemia, because of the treatment, aren't able to do that because it messes with your intelligence, so to speak, but I knew that's what I was supposed to do, and God found a way for me to do it. And then later on, right after I finished my training, I found out I had a brain tumor that was pressing on the portions of my brain that are intellectual functioning portions, and I wasn't sure what that meant for my future. But I knew that I was supposed to be a doctor, and eventually God would make that happen, and He did. My proudest moment was probably the day I finished treatment for leukemia. a big day. Sorry.
No.
My scariest was the tumor, and it wasn't when I found out I had it. I wasn't scared at all, really. I knew before they told me. It was after surgery, and I didn't know what I was going to be like. I didn't know if I was going to be able to be a doctor anymore. And that's my life.
But you are. But you are. Okay.
My lowest moment was probably during treatment for leukemia. It's 2 years of chemo and radiation, and I was 10. And there was a point where I was just done. I was just done. But that's when I felt God the most. And I felt just held. And just held. I've never felt his presence as strong as I have at that time. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Okay. My proudest moment, this one's bordering it right this minute. I have to say my proudest, I've had so many, because Meredith was valedictorian of her high school class. I mean, she's pretty smart. It's amazing for a parent to experience that during graduation. And rivaling that would be her graduation from medical school, because you just don't get to experience that very, very often. And again, when she was chosen, her residency was chosen, it got better and better and better. There's not a more proud moment. So I'm starting with those. My lowest moment, was when, even with the leukemia when she was 10 years old, I honestly don't know that it hit me all of a sudden. It took a while for me to process. The tumor was my lowest moment, because we were living in Georgia at the moment, at the day she called us. And she was here all alone. She had to call us from the hospital. They would not even allow her to drive home. She had to call a friend. She had just moved here. It was just, I just could not imagine getting here soon enough. It was really hard. So we had a 10-hour drive. We left almost immediately, and we're here as soon as we could be. That was my lowest moment, the most frightened. Let's see, my scariest. Thank you. That's my scariest as well. That's my scariest moment. Was when you called. She already knew that it was a meningioma.
I had an idea.
She thought she's a doctor. Okay, so she knew what it was, and she knew I didn't. All I heard was brain tumor. So that was enough for me, and that, again, was my scariest moment as well.
One, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be where I am. And God's the only reason I am. And I also feel like, especially this year, for some reason, ironically, we're doing this right now, is that He's put it on my heart to talk about it more. I am able to treat children. I've treated children that had the same thing I had. I have overcome quite a bit. And it wasn't me, it was him. And I've been kind of felt called to share that more with others, so that, I don't know, maybe if someone else is going through the same thing or something similar, or just something difficult, and they should know that nothing's impossible.
I'm going to ditto what you just said. And also, Meredith has just been in, last year you went to Haiti and did medical missions. And I remember the phone call we got when you got back. I'm not the same person. It was an amazing trip. And you're doing it yearly, you're going in this year. Just the being able to give back. I think that has been a major thing for you. And as far as a point or I think maybe that there will be a child that you will come in contact with that you will affect the same way that her doctor affected her when she was being treated, because she had a major influence on you. And so there's a child out there that she's going to have that same influence on.